Talk to me about your coaching services and like what does the experience look like? Because you're helping people get those reps in. Where you're talking about you do scenarios and you're walking them through. What does that look like?
Yeah, man, it's really a lot of practice. Like when
Mm,
you think of sports, you think of you're on the field a lot. You're on the field practicing more than you're in the games.
yeah.
So, and I think it's important that you're actually on the field practicing, and you have a coach telling you the plays, teaching you how to, you know, teaching you all the moves. And
Hmm.
that's what I do. So I sit down with people weekly. This isn't like I do have a course coming out that I'm gonna include into this, but I don't believe in
Nice.
courses. I don't believe in scripts. I want
Mm,
to sit with you for weeks at a time, and I want to role play with you and have sales conversations with you until we learn every weakness and strength that you have, and we're gonna work on those weaknesses. We're gonna sit down, and I'm gonna pick those weaknesses apart to the point to where you're gonna be so aware of them that when you do them, you're gonna start noticing it. Then it
yeah.
becomes natural to do it the other way. That's kind of what I do. It's not just a bunch of sales objections and here's my course and go good luck. You know,
Hmm.
it really matters that you're genuine though. If you're not genuine, this stuff is not going to work for you. I use a lot of psychology in my sales, and if you're a
Nice.
manipulative person, it's not going to work. You can just go
Mm,
somewhere else. You got to be genuine about this stuff, or people will know. Like Sean said, it's 2025. We know when someone's selling us. Even when somebody's not selling us, it sounds like they're selling us now.
yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So, yeah, it's all about breaking. My objective is that, have my students break, pattern interruptions. I
Mm,
want them to have conversations with people, and I want them to stick out.
yeah.
That's important in this sales world is just to stick out, show who you are. And, we talk a lot about being nice, Sean, and being polite and asking for
Hmm.
permission. And all that stuff's important. But what I found is don't take what I'm saying and just do that stuff. All that stuff is needed, but you also do have to have authority.
Yes.
You have to not boss them around, but let them know you're a decision maker and you have rights as a salesperson too. Okay? You gotta
Absolutely.
do all that, and you gotta give the close. We haven't talked about that. All this qualifying and follow-ups don't matter if you can't close somebody,
True.
you
True.
know? And you gotta know when to close somebody. Most people don't they give the presentation at the wrong time. Me and Sean talked about this. We touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the call, but, it's just it's the magic moment, going
Hmm.
back to dating, you know, the magic moment's not in the movies when you drop the girl off at the end and she's at the house and you kiss her right then.
Hmm.
Nobody gets money in sales doing it that way. You wait for the magic moment, the moment where you fill the room, they look at you, the emotion has been transferred at that time, and it's a right fit. That's when you do
Yeah.
it. I'd love to talk about that a little bit more if that's all right, just like the
Yeah,
close.
no, absolutely. I think you've definitely nailed it. It's one thing to be able to get somebody on a call and to be able to have that conversation, but it's another thing to actually know how to be able to close
Yeah,
and when to close. One of the other things that I wanted to cover, because you talked about your coaching style. We
yeah,
both were on a call with someone that we had a good experience with on the networking session. And then we went to get on a call.
yep,
And when we're talking about being like a coach, it was the weirdest situation because you're talking about coaching and you're giving people the reps and you're getting them through the scenarios. We both had someone book a call and then that person got on the call with him and
yeah,
just basically took all his authority and power away. So I wanted to kind of highlight that part
yep,
as well because there's a difference between giving someone the reps and building up their confidence. And then there's the people that I can remember when we would do sales and when they were training salespeople, they would get the person on the phone and then they'd be on the other phone on mute or on the call and they would be telling the person what to say.
what to say.
You're not going to be genuine when someone can tell that like you're having a conversation. You just told me who you are. And then all of a sudden I can tell that somebody else said something because now all of a sudden you just kind of changed everything up.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it's great that you're helping people get the reps in before and then helping them to be able to go, okay, well, what happened on the call? And then you get the tells and everything back. And then you
yeah,
allow them to be able to fine tune it. But you're doing it in real time by doing it with them, as opposed to the guy and his coach that were doing it on calls. And I mean, we both had the same response. It's like, dude, I enjoyed my conversation with you. The moment he got on the call, it just ruined any connection
Yeah,
that I felt like we had. And I just wanted to highlight that part because I think that's another misstep. And there are some people that may be selling it that way. And I
yeah,
wanted to highlight the difference between what you're doing and what somebody else may be doing. Because that person was basically selling themselves as a coach on a call where that guy was supposed to be closing his own business. So I say that to say, let's bring it back around to closing and say, okay, so when you are on the phone with someone and you are getting that vibe of, you know what, I feel like we're connecting on this. Then it's starting to identify when to be able to close. Is it on that first call? Is it another call? Talk to us
right.
about closing and your approach to it.
Sure, yeah, this is my favorite part, because I used to suck at it. I used to be the world's worst closer, I'm telling you, I really was. Okay, so it's really a good process, okay? I
Mm,
love it. So, you set your agenda, you tell them who you are, why you're calling, you ask for permission to ask questions. Once they give you that permission, you wanna find out, a little bit more qualifying questions, nothing deep, you're not getting deep
mm,
yet, you're just, like, how do you make decisions in your household?
yeah.
Are you the only decision maker? Are there other people? Because usually if there's other people, Sean, we wanna get those people on the phone
Yes.
or schedule another time where they can be on the phone too. We don't wanna spend time if all the decision makers aren't present.
Hmm.
Then we can test the urgency a little bit. We can find out if they do have a problem, and they're comfortable
Hmm.
with it. Is it today type of urgency or a 6 years from now type of thing? Once we found out, and they could lie to us, but once they tell
Mm,
us, "Hey, we're good with that, today," then we can really find out qualifying questions like we were talking about before. We can rip that Band-Aid off and start poking at the wound and asking, "Does it
hmm.
hurt? Does it hurt? What's going on here? Does it hurt more in the mornings, in the evenings? What happens if the
Yeah.
pain doesn't stop?" So, I'm looking for 3 to 5 needs and greeds, meaning things that they need and things that they want out of this transaction. For houses, it might be, "Oh, I need to buy a one-level house. My knees are getting bad. I wanna live closer to my brother. I wanna buy a boat. I wanna go to Vegas," I'm
Smart.
finding out what they want and need. Once I find out what they want and need, I find out that there's urgency, they're the decision maker, and we
Hmm.
built a good connection. It's time to close them. There's no need for following up. I have a solution for you today, Sean. You've told me
Hmm.
this problem, and this problem. I can help you. Do I have your permission to give you an offer now? To give you the presentation? Now it's cool to be a salesperson again. Okay?
Yes.
Because yeah,
Yes.
because you went through a process with them and you found out that they need, what they want. You built rapport with them. Because people think rapport is just, oh, well, we share the same football. We like
Hmm.
tomatoes.
Hmm.
No, it's more than that. Okay?
Yeah.
You find out all this stuff, then you ask for permission to give the offer. Give your presentation, do everything you're trained to do. And then at the end, let them make a decision. It's
Yeah.
okay to say no to me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. And so by this time, it's either going to be a yes or no, because if
Mm,
it's, well, I need to talk to my wife, you've done went over that with them. Sean, I
yeah.
really respect you wanting to think things over if you're not comfortable, and you can do that. But you did tell me at the beginning that you didn't have to talk to your wife. You're the decision maker. So that's not what this is it? Is it a good fit? No hard feelings, right? So, you're getting all these objections up front. You're finding out if they're financially able. You're asking the right questions. Like, just curious, Sean, what is your business like? Do you work? Do you have a job? Are you making good money? But you want to find out this stuff at the beginning to find out if they're a fit for your offer and
Mhm.
presentation. And then that way you're not wasting their time or yours. Like I said, I would much rather take a nap because I'm tired sometimes, right? Talking to all these people. I'd much rather take a nap than waste my time and your time talking to you if it
Right.
if it doesn't qualify for either of us, you know?
I
And
agree.
and always want to always, if you have someone saying yes to your product or service, you always wanna give that second turn go around. You always wanna say something like, I give a lot of nurturing. I nurture my prospects and stroke them in a genuine way. I wanna be genuine about it, but I like to say, "Sean, like, this has been a great conversation. I love learning about you. You seem like you're a good character, which is the type of person I love to do business with."
Mhm.
And you seem like a man of your word, so don't get mad at me when I say this, but I have to ask, before we do all this and money's transferred and all of that, you know, this is what you wanna do, right? Like, this is the
Yeah.
best decision for you and what you feel like is a good decision? Like, you always wanna ask that because not only do you not want to, screw somebody over if it's not a right fit, but
Mhm.
you want to handle that objection if they do have a second thought. It's another
Yes.
commitment they make. So if they say, no, Sean, this is exactly what I want to do, if they do wake up tomorrow, they're not just going to get emotional and text you, or they're going to think about it first because they made that
Right.
commitment to you. So I think that's really important with the close.
Well, now I see why it's one of your favorite parts because you just covered some of the nuanced parts of it that people will put at different stages, but the reality is it really is about the close.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back to the authority. The permission based, everything leading up to it is allowing them to be able to have the power. But once they say, yeah, I want to be able to hear more about it, then that's where you switch from being the very apologetic person to being the authority to say, okay, well, now you're asking for my expertise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're asking for my expertise, now it's time for me to not talk about the features and certain things like that. It's about here's everything that you told me. Now here's how I can address all the things that you said were actual problems. So I love the
Yeah.
fact that you said I will repeat it back to them and make sure that I heard it right, and
Yeah.
then align it with whatever the product or the service or thing that I'm actually selling is attached to, and aligning it in a way where they can nod their head and say, "Yeah, no, I can see how that would solve that and how this would solve this." So I think that part is definitely something that more people should pay attention to. One of the things that I love that you've covered that again, I don't think other people are necessarily talking about is circling back. You have an understanding of buyer's remorse. And you have the understanding of someone that's been sold on something. There are some people that are really good at selling somebody on something, and
Yep.
then the person wakes up the next day and goes, "You know what? I feel used." I
Yeah.
feel
Right.
dirty. Like I feel like I was sold on something, but now I've had a chance to think about it,
Yep.
and it's not what I wanted. It was just I was on the call and I felt like I got cornered, so I just kind of went with it.
Yeah.
Circling back and making sure that it's something that that person feels good about
Yep.
is something that gets you from being able to get that sale, that initial sale, to being able to hold on to them as a customer.
Yeah,
It
man.
takes it back from you being the authority to being that permission based person again that says, you know what, I just want to make sure you're good with this.
Yep.
And then I also love the fact that you talked about making sure that what someone said at the beginning of the call still aligns with where they are at the end of the call. You said you're the
Yeah.
point of contact. You said you're the person. You said you don't have to ask anybody else.
Yeah.
It's repeating it back because, again, that speaks to their character.
Yeah.
And if someone says something at the beginning of the call and then you get to that point and it's something that's different, then it's an opportunity for them, if they have any concept of shame or any of the other things that come along with it, to
Yep.
be able to correct it and give you a better idea of what you're actually looking at. So those are three things that I think are really, really important. And technically, every single one of those things are factors of being able to close a business. So I love that you were able to be able to cover that. Yes, you want to be the authority. Yes, you want to be able to align it with every single want, need, and everything else that they said that they're struggling with. Aligning what you're doing is making it so that it's more of a foregone conclusion. And that's one of the things we talked about in our conversation. I do my work on the front end so that I don't have to sell on the back end.
Yeah.
So I'm listening and saying, okay, yeah, no, that's actually something that I do have some experience with addressing. I do this, I do this, I do this, and aligning it as they're saying it so they can start to see it. One of the things that I try to tell people is the goal is to get them from it's impossible to it's possible to it's plausible to okay, now I can see myself actually getting those results. And if you can move them through that, when you get to the point where once they realize it's possible, that's when you start to close. So I love the fact that you were able to say, now here's the next steps on how to be able to do that. Um, I can only imagine how many people benefit from you being able to give them those types of insights and then allow them to be able to get through the reps of making sure that they're able to do it.